Welcome back to the Outlaw Ranch, y'all. Today, I did a little stewing on how to get this frame kind of on its own. I'm using this big plate steel here. This is the tabletop. I'm kind of using it as a flat work surface. And I think what I need to do is I'm going to add some additional tacks to this framework here. I'm kind of concerned that once I cut the tacks loose from the tabletop to separate the frame, that if I don't have enough tacks in this framework, that it might come apart. So I'm going to add just a couple of more tacks in some, what I think are probably some key areas. Then I will cut the tacks loose here from the tabletop and try to separate this framework. I want to separate the framework and get it completely burned in, fully welded, and I hope that it doesn't warp on me. Last night I was watching some other videos about some sequencing on which way you want to add heat and the cooling effect and how it's going to pull the metal this way or that way as it cools and stuff. So again, I am very much a beginner at this, so I'm going to add just a couple of more tacks to try and keep this framework all together. It is heavy, and I'm concerned that as I roll this thing over that things are going to want to bend, and I don't want it to come apart or bend or anything. I kind of want to keep everything as straight as I can. So stand by, folks. We're going to add a few more tacks, and then hopefully I can cut the tacks that are on, from the framework to the table, and hopefully we can get all this rolled over. Okay, I've got some additional tacks put in here where I was missing some. So I think there's at least 2 tacks on the outside and on the top on all of these. This one, I don't know what was happening. Apparently, you can see just how bad I am at this. But there is one piece of metal over here. This one here, it's the far end brace, and you can see there's a good sized gap there. And it's like that on both sides. I thought maybe I could fill that gap. I think that piece is going to come out. It looks like that piece probably should have been about 1/8 of an inch longer. And it's not, the gap is probably just a little too much. I think I'm still going to cut all these tacks loose, and I'm going to flip this thing over. And if I don't like how it is, like on the top side, just in case I didn't get it cut perfectly square or something like that, then if I don't like it, we'll cut it out. And the table should probably still stay together. But next up, we're going to cut these tacks off of this tabletop, and we'll see if I can't rotate this thing over onto its wheels. Stand by, folks. Okay, folks, I've got the framework all cut off here. There are a couple of places here where I kind of gouged into that. You can barely feel it, but still happened. So I'll see if I can't clean this up as best I can. Just flipping this over, it might be a little tough. So to make this the new top would be the easiest thing to do. I can lift that with the gantry crane and my engine hoist, but we'll see. This may still be the bottom just because, we got a couple of marks here. These will grind off, but like right here, there's another little gouge in it. But this is all cut off and removed, and now we have it here on the shop floor. So there's a couple of other little things I think that I want to do before I get to flipping this over and fully welding it. The first thing is I'm going to put a leg in here that goes between the two centers. The second thing that I may do is I may tack in some braces. They're going to come from, here, and we'll go down towards the center. I am going to leave a small gap in between them just so I could get that weld, on each side of this. So I think that's what's next. So far, this thing is light enough I can still pick it up. It's probably only, 300 pounds or so. This framework that you see so far represents pretty much 2 full sticks. This little piece here is what's left of one, and then this piece here is 38 inches. This one. And that's all that's left of 2 full sticks. So since I don't have to lift the whole thing up, all I have to do is just lift up a side and then pivot it over. I think I'll be able to do that. So stand by, folks. I'm going to get some more work done. All right, y'all. We got this center rib here tacked in. It's tacked in 3 places on each side. This ratchet strap is here because for some reason these 2 sides decided to pull apart a little bit after I got it moved off of the tabletop. I cut that first piece, what I'd measured it out at 42 and I think it was like 11/16 or something like that. And I put it in and it fit perfect. Then I decided to get down and actually eyeball from one leg, to the next and to the next, and saw that the center of it was bowed out just a little bit. So I came back, reconfirmed what these pieces here were cut at, and they were cut at 42.5. So I went back and cut that piece at 42.5. Then I cinched it back up, and lo and behold, it was still spread out just a little bit. Well, if you'll remember, I had some tacks on the inside of this leg here to the tabletop. And the reason why this piece, the center piece here, wasn't put in was because of those tacks. I still needed access to them to break them loose. So after I cut them loose and I slid this whole piece off, then I was able to put this center rib in here. Well, I had forgotten to grind off the little bubble that ends up on there, and so it was still pushing these, the center out a little bit. So I lifted the table back up, actually used this busted up block here, and ground off those 2 little remnants of the tacks, put that center rib back in, and use the ratchet strap to kind of pull everything in. And now everything is arrow straight. I'm unable to actually put a string line on here and not have it deflected one way or the other, because even if I had wrapped that string line, say like around this, and then pulled it taut, as you would pull it tight, it would bend in ever so slightly here. So this is really having to be done with the Mark I eyeball, or ichrometer if you prefer. So I eyeballed it exactly straight, used the ratchet strap just to bring it in ever so slightly. In fact, the reason the ratchet strap is up that high is twofold. One is it gets me clearance for those welds, but number 2 is these ratchets have, teeth here. And so to get that last, 16th of an inch or whatever, I ended up pulling the strap up and down a little bit to get it as exact as I knew how to get it. So this is as perfect as I know how to make it. I'm sure there's others of you out there that have better ideas. This is what I had. This is what I could think of. So this is what I used. I am going to now attempt to flip this frame over and get it on its wheels. I'm afraid that if I put those braces in here and add another, 200 or 300 pounds, that I'm not going to be able to lift this. So stand by, folks. I'm going to undo that ratchet strap, try and clear out a little bit of room, and get this thing turned over. Okay, folks, I've got this tabletop turned over, and now we're getting a little bit better idea of how tall the table is. It's, not quite hip high, but it's getting close. I did get it turned over. It is heavy. I knew it was going to be. Now, there's a couple of issues that came up. One, if you remember, we talked about this tube over here being just a little short and the gap being just a little big to be welding. Well, there's another issue with it. That other issue is that it is a little low in here. It's just not quite high enough. And it also, well, I guess it is square. So it needs to come up. I don't know how that happened. It's not that big of a deal. I needed to cut that tube loose anyways. This tube also seems to be a little low. It's perfect here. It's perfect there. This middle tube here is perfect. This tube is perfect. This one drops a little bit. It's not bad. On this side, it drops just a hair. It's not bad. This one, I would say, is perfect. So we got a couple of them that I got to come in here and fix. The height just isn't quite right. And that one is just too short. So I will get those addressed, I think, here next. I think. Yeah, let's get those addressed first. Let's get that last tube cut out and get a better, just a hair longer tube put in. And we'll go from there. And while we're at it, we'll get it pushed up to where it needs to be. So stand by, folks. Let's see if we can't get that cut and changed out.